Hello, if you've been following the little GUS LAMONT case, the little missing, I think he's 4-year-old boy from Australia, he's been missing 9 months. No doubt you haven't missed that his grandmother was grandfather, she's a trans woman, has finally come out with an interview after staying silent all this time and after some quite aggressive behaviour with a reporter and stuff. And I've noticed some things in this interview that are a bit concerning and also match my cards from, let me see, way back in 8th of October 25. So let's look at this interview. I want to go over the bits that I find concerning or contradictory, and then I'm going to go back over my cards. Don't worry, I'm not going to go over all of them. I've already done it and picked out the ones that are relevant. So let's have a look. Excuse me. We've lost it. No, wait a minute.
If you live in the UK and have been injured in the last 3 years in an accident that wasn't your fault, then you could be entitled to thousands, if not tens of thousands in compensation. This could be
trace, not a hat, not a t-shirt. There's no spot of blood, there's no piece of hair. There is nothing. It's just like Gus's vanished into thin air.
I'm recording.
Can you tell me anything more about him, his personality?
I'm so sorry about the traffic.
He was fairly quiet. He would get upset occasionally, like all kids. That's normal. He loved being on the swing out the side of the house there. He loved his push bike.
Right, I don't recall actually seeing a swing, but there you go. The bike is important. Let's turn it up.
Pushing that around and just letting it roll down the hill with him seated on it. Happy, almost, perhaps not more than you'd expect, but he was happy most of the time. And again, you know, he was just a normal, happy 4-year-old child.
Happy is important.
He loved sitting in the lounge, being read to, or reading his own books. He used to have a pile of books there. He'd drag them all out on the floor and go through them and read whatever he could understand from them. I'm not sure it was more than the pictures, but yeah, he was...
You're not sure if it's more than the pictures he could understand. Right, I've got 4 grandkids and I know exactly what they can understand or not. So it doesn't sound like... Obviously, I'm going to have to call this grandparent a she because he's transitioned to a woman. I'm going to have to say she. So she's obviously not hands-on if she doesn't know how advanced he was or not. But then she kind of contradicts that later on.
A bookish kid, you'd almost call him as well. He was quite happy.
So he was bookish, but you're not sure if he could read or not. Sorry, Oh, there's likely to be an echo on this because for some reason the screen recorder echoes on YouTube.
To go and play on his own a lot of the time. You'd often hear him down at the shed You know, he's got a fixation on opening and closing the Hilux doors at one stage, and you'd hear this bang, 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 bang.
So, are you dropping a hint about doors there? And he was playing alone a lot of the time. So, everyone was too busy to play with him. I find that quite sad.
We just said, well, if that's what he wants to do, he can do it. He's not going to hurt anything terribly much, and it doesn't matter. It's a work vehicle.
He's not going to hurt anything. So, no concerns about hurting himself, no?
So what?
Josie and Gus, they were close.
Well, I don't think they were. If she doesn't know enough about him.
And she saw Gus as the child who could take over the property they love so much and keep it in the family.
Right, now I think, this is my personal opinion, I don't think she saw that he could take that farm over. Apparently he was autistic. So how was he going to manage a farm when he's older? Now I think she had a problem with that and saw him as useless. And is that a possible reason she would lose her temper with him? Now we know she loses her temper easily because she saw it with the reporter and the GUN. And my original thoughts on this was that she lost her temper with him and took it too far.
You know, Gus was the apple of their eyes.
And that bond is certainly backed up by family friend Bill, who you've sat down and spoken with as well.
That's right. How would you describe Josie? You've known her for 60 years?
I guess you'd have to say a bit quiet, a bit reserved, pretty athletic, pretty studious. You'd have to work.
Right, so if she's 70 years old and pretty athletic, that tells you she could easily, quickly, in a panic, dispose of him, right? Now I can't go through this, excuse the traffic, I can't go through this whole interview.
Very hard to find someone that would say anything against her.
How would you describe Oak Park Station?
Well, it's open, remote, distant, lonely, beautiful. It's a big place, very hard to get your head around the size of it.
There's a town before it called Yunta, which is about 300 kilometres, 400 kilometres from Adelaide.
It's in the middle of nowhere. I call it nowhere land. We have a post office, one hotel. We only have Telstra here. Hi, Telstra. Without that, we're sort of buggered.
And then from that town, it's another 40 minutes to Oak Park Station. There are 6 gates that you have to open and close to get through. You say middle of nowhere, but it really is. You can't see anything, and you could hear a pin drop.
So they were letting that boy just wander around on his own there, because apparently he'd already gone missing on that land once before.
That's how it feels out there.
Want a master's degree that fits your life, or one that fits around your full-time job? Get your
Who are the members of Gus's family?
Josie Murray is the grandparent of Gus. Jess is her daughter. Shannon Murray, she is the former partner of Josie Murray, and the other grandparent to little Gus. And there is also another child in this that some people might not realise, but there's a baby Ronnie, who was 1.
And where was Gus's dad on that day?
Gus's dad wasn't at the property.
And for clarity, we should explain that Josie transitioned in the early 90s.
Shannon and Josie, they were married.
Husband and wife on the property.
Yes, and then things changed. Josie transitioned to a woman, and they are no longer together, but they are really good friends, and they run a business together, and they are business partners, and they run the farm together.
And share grandparent responsibilities of little Gus and his brother.
That's right.
Just talking about Gus as a little character, as a little kid, I think it's fair to say he was a free spirit on that farm. This is a kid who didn't know the city.
Right, can you just notice that bike he's on? It does not have stabilising wheels on the back, training wheels as you call them. That's important.
From what I've been told, he was adventurous. Big smile, loved to explore. The land was his playground.
People leave one another alone here, it's pretty good. You want a nice, peaceful life. You've got children and you're worried about the city. What's going to happen? It's a good place, I suppose, to bring up kids. It's safe. You know that the kids can play out in the yard, nobody's going to hurt them.
He often would go for a walk around the property, or around the homestead, but he would stick to the road. He wouldn't detour off it. He'd never go very far, but he would certainly walk around the homestead to the far reaches of the house paddock, if you want to call it that. I've never bothered to check it, but it's probably 5 or 10 acres, and he would cover all that, and no problem. I used to see him down the cattle yards occasionally and places like that.
You're letting a 3-4-year-old wander that far? And would he really be able to do that? And she's just nonchalantly saying, oh, I might see him down there, I might see him down here. Right, look at the bike again. No stabiliser wheels.
I understand that he has wandered off before, as he does. But there was never any panic because they knew how well he knew the land.
Shan had taken him down to the shearers' quarters while Jess and I were out mustering. And he had wandered off, and Shan couldn't find him when she was going to come home, so she came home and told us, Gus has gone for a walk somewhere. Jess and I thought, well, we better get on the motorbike and just go and find him. So we did that, and I was the one who found him, and he was probably 120 metres away from where he walked off from, and he was walking back straight to where, and I sung out to him, and he just looked over at me and just said, yeah, no problem, and just walking back to the shearers' quarters.
He said all that, did he? Could have been 3 years old then, or more recently 4. If he was autistic, he might have been slightly non-verbal. So I'm finding that hard to believe.
Just went over on the motorbike and picked him up, and he wasn't concerned, so he wasn't lost or anything. He'd just gone for a walk.
In September last year, the scenario was very different. Gus had wandered off and this time hadn't come back.
That's right. The family knew this time this was up.
Hold on, just checking it's still recording. Yeah, sorry.
Character, and there was possibly something very wrong.
I remember looking at my watch when we put the sheep through into the right paddock, and it was 10 past, so, and we drove straight back without any hold-ups. So, yeah, right back there at 5:30.
What do you mean without any hold-ups? Strange thing to say.
We were on the front veranda, and Shan said that...
Right, that is a new trampoline. I'm sure when I looked at those photos before, there was a really old, dangerous trampoline near the sand pile where I am sure he was still in the sand pile. And that's what I was getting from my cards and stuff.
Gus was just down near what we call the bomb shelter playing, and when we had a look...
Right, so it's gone from he was on a sand pile to he was near the bomb shelter. Why have you changed that?
No sign. And we said to Shan, when did you last see him? And she said 5 o'clock. And so in that half hour time frame, he disappeared. And we were a little bit concerned about the cellar we were building because it was
cellar we were building, that is very important with the cards, because I had basement come up, I had under a house come up, although that's not under a house, that looks to be next to the house, but cellars are usually under houses, and I had basement come up on the spirit box.
He could have fallen down there, so that's one of the first things we did. We looked, there was no sign that he'd been down there, no blood on the concrete floor, nothing.
Right, why are you mentioning blood? Is that a bit of leakage there? Why are you talking about blood?
And so then Jess and I walked around all the buildings on the property and checking all the, like the swimming pool, just in case he'd managed to somehow open the gate, which is, he'd have to be 6 foot tall to do it.
Swimming pool's never been mentioned before.
And checked whatever else we could and still couldn't find him. So we had a quick conference and decided what to do, and we decided we'd better jump on the bikes and go and look. I remember saying to Jess at one stage, we've got 45 minutes of daylight that night. So what that time was, I don't know, but after we'd searched on foot, but I remember saying we've got 45 minutes of daylight, we better get with it. We were concentrating within probably 3/4 of a K or a K of the kilometre of the homestead, and just searching where the tanks were, the dams, down by the cottage.
So you did all that, did you? Did you really?
I think we went to the shearing shed, but I'd be surprised if we didn't.
You think you went to the shearing shed? Now, I'm sorry, but I would imagine that you would remember every single moment of that evening. My son went missing once in a shopping centre around the same time poor little Jamie Bolger went missing. And even though I was in a state of shock and panic, I remember to this day, how many years later? Let me see. About 33 years later, I remember every second of that. Every second of where I looked. Everything. So what do you mean you think you searched there?
And so Jess and I were in contact with the radio or visually pretty well the entire time, even though we might have been separated by 300 or 400 metres. We could see each other, we knew where we were. And we kept that up until it was getting to the dark stage.
Would you not call the police first and search? Do you know what I mean? Search while you're waiting.
And then we went home. Went into the kitchen, and I think the question was raised, how soon do we notify the authorities that we might have a...
I think, again, you would remember.
Missing child, and we need to do something about it.
A missing child? That's your grandson. We ought to do something about it.
And I've seemed to recall it was sometime around 8 o'clock that we actually made the call.
You would also remember the exact time.
So it's dark, it's getting later and later. When do the police first arrive? Because distance is a tyranny out there.
Yeah, so we understand that an officer named Luke was the first one to arrive from a nearby town. After that officer arrived, there was a second one on his way.
Luke and I were sitting on the hill outside the house trying to spot his flashing lights. And this went on for some time, trying to describe how he should get to the property. And I kept saying, look, go back to Paratu Homestead and come in on the road. Eventually he just gave up and went back to our room. So he actually never arrived on the property. While Luke was there, I got in the vehicle with him and went down to the cottage, and we searched that and the shearers' quarters, all the buildings down there, the sheds.
Right, why do you keep mentioning the shearers' cottages, the shearing shed, and one policeman arrived? That's outrageous. And, you know, I feel sorry for them there. That's not good enough.
And then up to the shearing shed and checked all that. And I'm pretty sure we did the tanks and everything and the dam. Because
Pretty sure, again, you would remember.
everyone automatically jumps to conclusions that he could be there, even though we'd already checked them 2 or 3 times by that stage.
You can't have checked them 2 or 3 times in that short period.
A bit later that night, Shan and I went out in the buggy again, and we
Went out in the buggy again. You didn't mention buggy before, you said motorbikes.
very carefully, because it was an issue with vehicles running around. If Gus was actually out there and walking around, if he blundered onto the road in front of a vehicle coming in, he could get cleaned up and run over very easily. So we were...
Cleaned up. Oh, that could be leakage. What, you had to clean up something? What, like blood, like you mentioned earlier? Or you had to clean up an accident, clean up a body, clean up where you'd punished him and took it too far? Oh, that's a bit of a tell.
Being very careful and just quietly, probably 10 or 15 k's an hour, moving along the roads, just checking along the roads, because as Jess said, and we were all fairly sure that if he had gone for a walk, he would have walked along the road, because that's what he did.
Walking along the road, that's what he did. I find this just... I can't find the words. That's what he did, walk along the road. Out in the sticks, on a farm the size of, what did they say, Adelaide. You knew he wandered around on the road on other occasions, and that was fine, was it? And surely you would have seen him. It's pretty flat out there. He's got bright curly blonde hair. He can't have walked that far. Would you not have seen him in the distance?
A remote family sheep station, now the centre of a major police operation.
Let's talk about the very first search, the terrain, the temperatures, the size and the scale that we're dealing with here.
So the first search, they covered 60,000 hectares. There were at least 300 police officers and volunteers involved. They covered so much area of the land, and they searched all day.
The scale of the air and ground search as part of this investigation is unprecedented.
Certainly the family at the very beginning believed it was just a matter of time before he was found. But by the next day, when the sun was rising, that hope started to fade. and I got a sense that panic was starting to set in.
Yeah, they didn't put photos out of him till, what was it, a week later, which was strange. They didn't come out and do TV appeals.
Up next, are there new clues in the disappearance of Gus Lamont?
A child would not be able to shift it, and this bedstead had been moved.
Later.
Have police told you that you're a main suspect in the case of Gus's disappearance?
I'm going to do it now. That's what Shannon and I say nearly every night when we knock off work. We go and sit on that back veranda with the dogs while they're having their dinner, and we say, how? Why?
So, now this is interesting to me. So every night they sit on the back veranda. Are they possibly looking out into the direction where he is? Because, you know, if the poor little guy isn't buried in a proper cemetery, this is almost like this could be their place to remember him. And again, it could be where they just normally eat dinner. But to me, it's almost like he is buried in that direction, and this is their only way to remember him, sitting there and looking out over in that direction. Do you get what I mean? But then again, I could be wrong.
We just can't believe it.
What, you can't believe that it was an accidental DEATH and it went that far and you covered it up?
Hannah, Gus's grandmother Josie told you something extraordinary about what she saw the day after young Gus disappeared. What was that?
It seemed that in the hours before police arrived, there was possible evidence of someone else being on that property. We've never heard
But this is only now being mentioned 9 months later.
this before.
I remember looking.
Can you see that new trampoline right outside the house? That was not... Sorry about the tractors. That was not in the original photos.
Out the window because it was starting to get light by that stage. And there was a bedstead there that we'd set up to put
Right, that is very important.
stone on to wash, and that bedstead had been moved. Not quite 180 degrees, but certainly quite a substantial amount from when I last saw it. And I thought, what the hell's happened there? And
what the hell's happened there? Right, so now my theory's done a complete U-turn. Did something happen on that bedstead? Did she HIT him and he hit his head on that? Or is he buried under that? Or earlier I suddenly saw an argument going on about him refusing to go to bed and her losing her temper. Or possibly something happened in his bed in the house, because you will see later a bed card did come up. But this bed frame, this is really important. There's a reason it's being shown.
it was reasonable.
And the fact that she's only coming out now to speak comes across to me like she can't cope with keeping it a secret anymore.
Heavy. A child would not be able to shift it. And this bedstead had been moved, and I also saw what we called the weather station had been moved. I'm not sure when that happened, but there appeared to be something had happened there. And I then walked up past where the bedstead was and thought, well, I better not move it because this could be an indication of something. Then I saw
an indication of something. Yeah, this is really giving me signs that this is a hint.
wheel tracks going down past where the bedstead was.
Were those wheel tracks yours?
And past where the weather station was. And these wheel tracks were small tyre, medium-sized car, and not much tread on them, not a off-road type tread. It was definitely a passenger type.
So where's your photos of that?
And I thought, that's strange too. And I started to think almost immediately, I wonder if someone's come in. And all the time I was thinking, you know, there's a chance that he's been taken by someone.
See, wouldn't you have seen a car? Do you see how flat that land is? We live in an area called the Fens, which is completely flat. And you can see a car coming from miles off. And it's the same there. Look at it.
I was frankly...
And look at the dust that gets kicked up by the cars there. You would see it.
Horrified at the number of vehicles that were parked around our house because we hadn't actually seen them come in.
So there was a number of vehicles parked around your house, but you hadn't seen them come in. Don't believe it.
My immediate thought was, my God, they've destroyed any chance of tracking him if he'd walked out on the road or anything, because the road was already...
And why does she keep pushing her glasses up? I need to look back at this to see when she does that. And I bet that's every time she mentions something about Gus disappearing. It's kind of a gesture where she's trying to hide her face by doing that.
He pounded up and starting to get dusty, and they'd made a mess. One instance we have, and again the police apologised to us afterwards, because I saw footprints in one of the dams. The dam was nearly dry, there was mostly mud, and I found these footprints in the dam, and I took photographs of it. And
sorry, just checking. Yeah.
We actually took one of Gus's boots out there, and I laid it next to this footprint and took a photograph of it, and I said, it's got to be him. It's got to be him because it's the right...
Right, so that's like the Jack and Lily Sullivan case. That's a setup, because how do you just leave one footprint? So I believe they did that. She did that. So she's got photos of the footprint, but not the tyre tracks. That's because there weren't any tyre tracks. But they've made the footprint to make us believe he was there.
Size. And the police kept on saying that no, that it was a police diver. Yeah, this guy must have had a size, well, someone said it's smaller than a size 4 ladies footprint, and he must have had tiny feet. And the superintendent admitted to me that was a mistake.
So in the race to search for Gus, perhaps early evidence, early signs about someone else being on the property might have been lost.
That is what her concern.
Nobody else was on that property.
is now.
It is fair to say that Josie doesn't have a lot of time for South Australia Police.
She's told me she's not happy with how this investigation has gone or the case of her grandson has been handled.
It was admitted to me later that they think that that was a mistake to come in with all those vehicles so early, when they should have actually got the tracker guy from Port Augusta who'd been on our place tracking dogs and trapping them. And we needed to get him there while there was still a chance to find the tracks, but he didn't get there till 2 or 3 days after Gus went missing. I'm pretty sure I talked to Luke McCoy and said, look, don't rule out abduction. There's signs that something has occurred in front of the bomb shelter, and that was where Gus was when we last saw him. And
right, this bringing up this bomb shelter is, what's this all about? This is new. And is this where something happened, or is this where he was originally buried but they've moved him?
we're suspicious, and I couldn't rule out that he'd walked off, and I couldn't rule out that he'd actually been taken. I said, you know, I don't know. And so that's the way I left it.
That's the way I left it. Is that the way she left him?
What are you leaning towards now?
Oh, abduction. There was supposedly 700 people were on...
Right, so I think she's saying that now because it's been 9 months and they've got away with it, so... Well, you know, it's abduction, isn't it?
Our property at any one time. Now, the important people in all that are the locals. It's our job to find things out there. This is what we do. And as time went on, I was getting more and more convinced when we couldn't find anything, we couldn't find a shoe, a hat, any sign of a
Right, you'll see that the hat card came up.
top, nothing. We could not find a thing, and everyone said the same thing. This is ridiculous. There would be something out here. There has to be something.
Well, no, because whether it was her or somebody else, they've obviously buried his hat, clothing, shoes with him.
Now leads us to a range of theories and possibilities. What has been speculated about what happened to Gus?
Well, the possibilities are sort of endless at this stage because the only evidence is no evidence. So abduction is a possibility. Wildlife, being taken by wildlife is a possibility.
If wildlife is a possibility, my bet would be wedge-tailed eagles.
Right, don't be ridiculous. My husband used to work with birds of prey, and that's absolutely ridiculous, and I'll show you afterwards why.
Wedge-tailed eagle can pick up a 20, 25 kilogram kangaroo and
No, they can't.
take it without much difficulty. Gus was 13 or 14 kilograms, so...
No, he wasn't. And, no offence, you could see he was underweight. And you'd also see hundreds of other birds of prey circling. His hat would be there, his clothes would be there. Absolutely not.
A mature wedge-tailed eagle would find that quite comfortable.
No, they wouldn't.
But we've also had theories, wild theories, from across the world. Police have had tips from Syria.
Are you kidding?
That's been one of the phone calls they've had, so many. And the sightings from overseas have been discounted. But because there is nothing, you have to follow up every tip, and there are hundreds. It is a huge amount of work for police.
If he died of exhaustion, you would have seen the eagles, the hawks, the ravens, all around the area. You would have seen it.
Exactly.
I think somebody's taken him. Whether he's alive or he's dead, God only knows. But the only good thing about it is that if someone has taken him, then there's a thread of a possibility that he may still be alive.
February this year, police hold a press conference and they declare his case a major crime, telling us that he was likely killed or his body disposed of after an accident.
What evidence did they have to support that?
They did not disclose any evidence.
Yeah, that's what I think happened. Either there was an accident or grandmother here punished him and took it too far and accidentally killed him.
That they may or may not have.
Or my original theory could still stand. Oh, excuse the motorbikes. That sand pile they let him play in was unsafe and it caved in. I did post photos about that. And he's still in there because it wasn't searched properly.
Knowledge, has there been forensic evidence found to support that major crime theory?
Not to my knowledge.
But this is a big development. They're putting it squarely back on involvement within the family.
That's right. In that press conference, abduction, unlikely. Every taken by wildlife, unlikely. So back to the family we go.
The person who has withdrawn their cooperation is now considered a suspect in the disappearance of Gus. I do want to stress, however, that Gus's parents are not suspects in his disappearance.
Right, so this leaves only one other theory. So we know the dad was living further away because he didn't get on with the grandparent. Could he have arranged to have Gus taken and he's somewhere safe? Possible. It does happen. But in this case, I think it's unlikely.
So they declare a major crime, but they don't announce any charges. They don't prosecute anyone.
And at this stage, we still have no charges. A main suspect, but no charges. How do you think South Australian police have handled this investigation?
To me, they just seem to have tunnel vision, and it's getting to the point of almost being vindictive now.
And do you think there's been any discrimination against Jose?
Well, I do. As everybody knows, Josie is a transgender. I challenged the police about this, that they were targeting her because of her transgender situation.
No, they're targeting her, as you call it, because of her behaviour.
And they were mortally offended that I should say it.
So when police declared this a major crime, the family stopped speaking to them. They both hired high-profile lawyers and haven't spoken to them directly since. They haven't been happy with how the search was handled in the first place, and now they're being targeted as possible killers.
All of them, or just Josie?
Just Josie.
Up next.
They think that I buried him. Took him out and buried him.
Later.
Do you think he's still alive?
9 months on from Gus's disappearance, his grandmother Josie Murray remains a suspect. Now, for the first time, what police have told her and what she wants to say to police.
Excuse me.
Have police told you that you're a main suspect in the case of Gus's disappearance?
They've said that they don't think I hurt him, they think that I buried him. That's one of the theories they're working on. And as I say, that's for so many reasons it's ludicrous. It just, doesn't make sense. Why would you
So she shook her head when she said it's ludicrous. So if you believe in body language, what she's doing there is she's saying it's not ludicrous. It's not ludicrous that she buried him. So she did.
Do that to yourself when you know that, okay, if he'd had an accident, you'd just go, well, you know.
There you go with the glasses. If he'd had an accident, and she pushes the glasses up to hide her face briefly.
As much as we hate it and everything, you know, he's had an accident, right, you know, we've got to deal with it.
Got to deal with it, and licked her lips. He's had an accident, we've got to deal with it. Looks down and licks her lips. That's a sign of deception.
Gus was who you were going to hand over the farm to eventually.
Oh yeah, that was, I mean, that's the other thing why it's ludicrous. I mean, why would a 70-year-old like myself and like Shan be working, which we are. I tend to probably work close to 70 hours a week. I don't stop for weekends or anything. I just keep working every daylight hour there is. Why would...
Right, so apparently you weren't going to be able to hand the farm over because he was going to move to another area with his dad and his family. Were you angry about that? Were you angry that he was autistic and wouldn't be capable of running the farm anyway?
I do that at this age if I don't intend to try and handle the property over to Jess and the two boys in the best possible condition I can do it. And I know that I've been accused of taking him from where he had an accident and died and taking him out and burying him, but to think that I could actually go out there and do something like that, to think that I would be stupid enough to do it, for a start, is ludicrous. And to think that I could face up to the trauma of doing that would also be ridiculous. There's no...
She very slightly nods her head yes to that. Very slightly.
No way under those, when it's so dry and dusty like that, there's no way you can bury something without leaving evidence that the ground has been disturbed.
You'd know how to do that, you're a farmer. And who said you dug a hole? There's numerous wells and mines around there.
And the amount of searching that went on, aerial, with a helicopter, with the fixed wing, with the drones, with everything, you would see signs of someone being buried.
Not if you uprooted one of those many millions of bushes and planted it over the top, eh?
I mean, obviously they were thinking about the dam, and I had several neighbours who said to me afterwards it would be, again, ridiculous to think that he'd gone into the dam because there was a weed all around the dam, and if anything had gone in there, if we'd put him in the dam or if he'd walked into the dam or anything, you would disturb that weed and it'd be damn obvious.
Sorry, just checking. Yep.
Have police ruled out abduction?
Almost certainly. They believe it is so unlikely that a stranger would be so opportunistic to go into a property so remote.
The one that is so laughable is the one that the head of the major lot said that there was only four-wheel drive access to Oak Park, so there was no chance of abduction. And I mean, that's absurd because the Hilux they've taken down there to do tests on is a two-wheel drive. Shan's got a two-wheel drive, Jess has got a two-wheel drive, the buggy's a two-wheel drive. I mean, it's laughable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The other thing that they said was that the footage on the security cameras on the property next door where you come in from Yunta Road showed that no one had come out to Oak Park in that time frame. So I identified all the sites, and there was one I wasn't 100% sure of until I got a better view of it, and then I could see the trees, and I said, oh, And that's the one that's on the road in from Yunta at what we call Breakneck Creek. And this bloke said, oh, well, that wasn't working at the time. And I thought, again, lie, because they'd told me that he couldn't have been taken because no one came in and no one showed up on the cameras. And then they tell me the camera wasn't working. So again, just false. There's just been so much of this falseness over all this and mistakes that have been made.
What about the noise? Can you hear cars
So why didn't you come out at the time and put people straight with all this?
come in inside your house?
It can be difficult. If it's windy, you're not going to hear it. It's as simple as that. But usually we've got the dogs there on the loose and they...
Wait. Wind normally carries noise further, I think.
They would alert someone if someone else drove into the house, you'd hear them barking. But, of course, we were doing sheep work, so we had all the dogs with us. So, just bad luck.
Look, everybody here is concerned. They are concerned, and they're not just concerned about the little one missing, but they're concerned about the family as well. I don't know. I don't know how they can handle it, because it wouldn't be an easy thing.
You know, we haven't got a body, we haven't got a live body, we haven't got a dead body, we have no idea of quite...
Hey. Again, she's talking about him like he's a nobody. We haven't got a live body, we haven't got a dead body. Shouldn't she be saying, we haven't got a live Gus, we haven't got a dead Gus? Why is she distancing herself so much?
Where he is, but we feel that, yeah...
Where he is, not where Gus is.
Yes, he has been taken.
How would you describe her emotions, and then to when you sit down with her emotions in this interview? Because they're very different.
Very. So throughout the search, she's been incredibly hostile, only ever swearing at the media and sneering even. I haven't seen any emotion from her during the searches, and there's been 11. But it's clear she's very sad and she is broken, and the pressure this family has been under, the toll that it's taken, is unfathomable.
Sorry.
Okay. Take as long as you want.
That was a breath of relief. Oh, did you see that? That was a breath of relief. I think she's going to crack. I think she's going to confess. Because like I say, why leave this 9 months?
You'd just suddenly be hit by the horror, the enormity of this.
Hit by. You see that I've spoken about this before. It's called leakage, where the words they choose tell a story. An example is where somebody's killed someone and put them in water, and they talk about being in too deep and stuff. Do you get what I mean there? So this hit by, did she hit him too hard? Or did she hit him with a car?
And Jess probably more so. But Jess is not quite so prone to talk about it, particularly to me, if you like.
Why won't she talk to you? Rumour has it she's not talking to her. Does she suspect? Is she scared of her?
But yeah, it's just, and then to be accused of doing something like this is just, you could not wish a more horrible experience on anyone.
Does it just break your heart?
And I guess we live in the hope that this is...
Why didn't she answer that? So the reporter said, does it break your heart? She didn't answer that.
benign abduction and he's still out there somewhere, and it just... some stages, hopefully soon, someone's going to see him and go, right, and notify the authorities. And, yeah, it's... To go from
wiping away a tear that wasn't there.
Living a quiet time up there, which is what I've said to a lot of people, that we tend to have a quiet time up there, away from all the nonsense that goes on in the rest of the world, and then to have something thrust on us like this is, yeah, I cannot describe how we feel about it.
Next. What does a forensic criminologist make of this interview?
Well, you wouldn't do that if you were innocent, or you wouldn't do that if you were guilty.
Months after GUS LAMONT vanished in South Australia, we're still no closer to knowing what happened. Now, for the first time, we're hearing from one of the last people to see him, his grandmother, Josie Murray. And we've shown the interview to a criminal psychologist for fresh insight into this mystery. In what you help police with, what might they look at in Josie's interview in terms of their investigation?
The investigation team know the materials that they gathered in this investigation, and a tiny fraction of that, I'm sure, is what is publicly available for good reason. They would be interested in looking at the account that Josie gives in this interview, looking at how that compares to other information they have gathered. They would presumably be looking at how she presents as well, but something that I've focused on in the detectives training that I provide is not to make any assumptions about body language. It is notoriously flawed in producing any conclusions about whether somebody is truth-telling or potentially deceptive. So something I've focused a lot is ensuring that people focus more on the quality of the...
No, body language isn't flawed. It's actually quite accurate. It's just not seen as a official science yet.
The evidence that they can extract from an interview.
How important is it then that the investigators, I guess to put it simply, don't judge a book by its cover?
It's extremely important that investigators keep an open mind, and I think for the community as well, because we're in a world where there is a lot of public judgment and immediate decision-making, and it may turn out in the end that certain avenues are confirmed. It may turn out that they're very wrong, and if they're wrong, what's the harm that's been done in the meantime?
Until now, we haven't seen emotion in Josie. She's been identified as the main suspect. In fact, we've seen hostility. She's barged media outside of court. She's been very angry with a lot of people on her property. From an investigator's point of view, do you have to be careful about judging that character or those characteristics in the context of this case, a missing child?
Absolutely. And look, I think, for the general public, as humans, it's our tendency to see every event through our filter of what our experience has been and what we've been previously exposed to. And so we can be very quick to judge, well, you wouldn't do that if you were innocent, or you wouldn't do that if you were guilty. But if we haven't lived through that experience, we can't really say that.
There's no sign that he'd been down there, no blood on the concrete floor, nothing.
In your expert opinion, you've had a look at Josie's interview. Broadly, what are your impressions of her and what she's saying?
I think to put oneself out there and address questions, and there can be different motivations for that, but regardless of the situation, I think it's pretty brave because you're putting yourself out there for further public commentary and debate and speculation.
Josie Murray has told us that she has concerns that perhaps early evidence was missed or lost in the rush to find GUS. What was the priority of police then, from an investigative point of view, at the time when they arrived?
Certainly I know from many, many missing persons investigations that I've assisted the police with, we have to keep in mind that priority of people are desperate to find a child, and as quickly as possible. But there are also those protocols of anyone who is missing, as police would be trying to ensure, evidence preservation needs to be a top consideration as well from the very beginning, because evidence can be lost very quickly. But I know it is a real challenge for investigators or responding police to manage both of those priorities.
On the front veranda, and Shan said that GUS was just down near what we call the bomb shelter playing.
Given they have no forensic evidence that we're aware of, we finally have words, and in those words are emotions.
So if he was down near the bomb shelter playing, which is a new thing, wouldn't there have been loads of footprints of his there? And wouldn't they have been able to follow the footprints?
Help police now. Have they got a bit more to go on than they had last week?
Well, I'm hopeful that this might actually enable Josie to feel that she's been able to have her say, and that potentially doors may be opened on both sides for more information from Josie to be explored. And potentially, if Josie feels that she has been listened to and been able to put her perspective or the family's perspective or both, then potentially there's an avenue for more discussion with investigators that would help find out what's happened to Gus.
What would your message be to the public and to authorities now?
Emma is 57.
Oh, that was a bit of
and
a
she's
sour
starting Chinese
face.
walking today. Skeptical, but
Sorry, you probably didn't hear that. I said that was a bit of a sour face when asked what her message to the police and public would be.
All right, whenever you're ready, I suppose. Good to go. Good to go. Detective Chief Superintendent Darren Filkey from Major Crime Investigation Branch. Gus's grandparents, who continue to reside here at Oak Park Station, represented by solicitors. All communications that Task Force Horizon are having with Gus's grandparents are through the solicitors. One of the grandparents of Gus remains a suspect in this investigation.
What would your message be to the public and to authorities now?
Keep looking for any sign that a child is Gus.
That a child is Gus. What? Don't you mean keep looking for Gus?
Don't take any notice of his hair. His hair is his crowning glory, but it's also the thing that everyone remembers about him the most, and you have to take that hair away from that face and look at that face.
Did you pull his hair out?
And if I just saw the eyes of Gus, I would know him instantly because...
Oh dear. Do you remember looking in his eyes?
It's the way you are.
Do you think we will ever find out what happened to Gus?
I think there is a real possibility that this case will never be solved and we'll never know. And sadly, it could end up like a case like William Tyrrell or Madeleine McCann. It's heartbreaking as it is to say, it's a very real possibility.
A cold case with no answers, no clues.
That's how it might stay. Is it hard being in the house?
A lot of his toys still around. We bought him a little two-wheel push bike for pedalling around with trainer wheels on. We thought he'd just...
Right, busted. You bought him a bike with trainer wheels on it. That bike doesn't have trainer wheels.
About at that stage, that's still sitting in the lounge, and every time I walk past, I go...
It's still sitting on the lounge with trainer wheels on it, is it? Yet that footage was supposedly really recent, and that bike does not have trainer wheels.
Oh my God. There's all sorts of stuff that reminds me of him.
And why do these toys all look new? Like they've just been bought and placed there. That football hasn't been used for a start.
This situation won't finish until they find either a boy or a body. And, you know, ultimately, if Josie is proven innocent, they've already wrecked her life.
We're devastated about what's happened. I mean, you go for a drive on any part of the Barry Highway and you do think about that little boy Gus. I don't stop thinking about him. I pray that, you know, somewhere along the line he's still around, he's still alive somewhere. That's
right.
what I think.
So anyway, that's... Oh.
We don't feel that this is a horror story, if you like. And if you think about it, nothing else makes sense. Nothing else makes...
A horror story? Why? What happened that was so horrific? That's a really weird phrase. A horror story.
Makes sense.
Do you think he's still alive?
It's a sad story. It's a tragic story. It's not a horror story.
I do. I do.
We asked South Australia Police for an interview in relation...
Right, so I hope I've got enough time I'm so paranoid about this recorder. Right, let me quickly go over the cards again. So remember, this was done on 8th of October last year. Let's see again what was mentioned in the cards on the 8th of October that she mentioned in her interview. Now, this is very strange. So we've got under a house. Now, that's where a cellar usually is, and she mentions building a cellar. Police, obviously she's not happy with the police. Basement, again, that's what we call a cellar in the UK, basement. Car, ignore the fact it's a taxi, but it's a picture of a car. She talked about the possibility of him being run over. Here we go, the bed. See, there's a picture of a bed here. She talked about the bed frame being moved. And I now wonder, did something happen with that bed frame outside? Did he fall on it? Is he buried under it? Or did something happen in the bedroom and then they made up this story that he ran away or was abducted? Was there an argument about him not going to bed? Indian, that symbolises in this case the Aboriginal tracker. The cap, that proves he wasn't picked up by an eagle because it's not going to take his cap as well. Denial, not facing truth, irrational reasoning. To me, her reasoning is irrational. Interview, 8th of October. She finally has done an interview. Signs. To me, she's giving away signs in the form of leakage. Crickets, silence, non-action. Why was she silent for 9 months? Lockbox, closed in, trapped, frustrated. Could she have locked him up in something and buried it? This could symbolise the bomb shelter because you hide yourself away. You close yourself away in a bomb shelter. Did she use that to punish him? This one, punishment. I said that at the time. Absolution, forgiveness, penance, redemption. As I said in that interview, she gave a sigh of relief. Is she going to confess? Completion. Again, is she going to confess? But also, lesson learned. Did she punish him? That's really the feeling I've got all along. Happiness, she talked about him being happy most of the time. Under the bed, look, bed frame. Pipe. I zoomed in on, I should have got a screenshot. I zoomed in on that cellar that was being built, and there were 3 sort of dangerous looking pipes that were sticking up. Is that why she mentions blood? Yeah, they're like metal rods. You can go and look for yourself. Behind a wall, there were partially built walls in that cellar. It's nearly a year. And look, sheep. Plan. There must be a floor plan for this cellar that's being built. Call for help. Admit your needs. I really feel like she's starting to let it get to her. Death rites, saying goodbye, honouring lives. Is this her, if she did it, feeling she can only say goodbye properly if she confesses, if it was accidental? Here we've got mother, father. So, she is both a mother and father figure because she's trans. And then I looked up the eagle again. Oh, sorry, I was looking at how long he's gone missing, because I did wonder if that came up on the number card. It didn't. I did get year. This is when she did the interview. Right, I looked up white-tailed eagle. They're very similar to wedge-tailed eagles. As I say, my husband used to work with birds of prey, and they can carry up to 2 to 3 kilograms in sustained flight, while they can briefly lift heavier prey up to 5 to 6 kilograms, around 1/2 of their body weight. And I looked up what's the average size of a 4-year-old boy. Weight approximately 40 pounds. And I had to convert that because we don't do pounds here. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Kilograms. So that's 40 pounds equals 18 kilograms. So let's go back to the eagle. The most they can lift is 6 kilograms. So don't be ridiculous. An eagle cannot carry 18 kilograms. And if an eagle took him, he would have had to have carried him away a really long distance. So there's no way an eagle did that. Sorry. So I found that most interesting, that all that came up on the cards back in the 8th of October last year. And on the spirit box, I had blonde hair. I thought that was to do with Gus, but it could be to do with the grandmother. Planning. Did it take a lot of planning? And again, planning to do with the seller. She's coming. I think he was frightened of her. Iris, she talked about his eyes. Basement. Here you go. Seller. Basement. That came up in the cards and the spirit box. I thought that was the name of the old man. It wasn't. Got that wrong. So, ignore that one. There we go. Very interesting. Right, please remember this is my opinion only. And I could be very, very wrong. But I think most people, going by comments I've read on Facebook and YouTube, believe she had something to do with it. And barely anyone believes he wandered off. And whether it was an accident and she covered it up, or she actually did something to him, that we don't know. But this is my opinion, and yours might be completely different. So sorry this was so long.